Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR, or maybe from some of these other Locked On shows that we do. Just a reminder, we got the Locked On Giants postcast right around the corner, so make sure you're tuning in to the Locked On Giants podcast for those shows. But for today, man, we got a lot of 49ers news to get into, and today we're going to talk about when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have struck gold in the draft and when they've had some issues. Which rounds do they usually find success, and which rounds are they taking some swings and misses?
Hey, everyone. I'm Dwayne Boyd, four-time Super Bowl champion, and looking at free agency and the free agent hunt, the 49ers Pro Football ranking had them in the top 5, and it seems like the 49ers were on the right track in the free agent market, but let's see what happens when the draft rolls around.
We'll get into that and more right now on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi's Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad Show starts now.
Hey, what's up, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another edition of the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. We're a little short-handed today, just me and Dwayne going at it again. We'll be getting Ayrton Ostley back on the show next week. Make sure you're subscribed to the Locked On 49ers podcast feed on YouTube or wherever you're getting your podcast, and make sure you never miss a show. Shout out to all our everydayers who tune in every single day. And Dwayne, let's start with what you were talking about at the start of the show, where the 49ers sit right now in free agency. I mean, last week, just a flurry of moves, a ton of big splashy things as well, bringing in Mike Evans and such. But this week, very, very much the opposite of that. Stagnant, not a lot going on. The 49ers seem to be maybe standing pat with what they've done so far. Maybe they make another move or two before training camp and all those things start. But where do you see the 49ers right now? As you said, Pro Football Focus ranking them 5th as far as free agency goes in the power rankings. So what are you feeling about the 49ers in this week of non-action in free agency?
Well, I think they addressed a couple of needs was the offensive line and also wide receivers. So they addressed those two issues, but there's still the issue of, we've been talking about it almost every show, the pass rush. Do they need to find one more pass rush? Is there a free agent out there lurking in the bush that they should bring in, or do they feel comfortable with the ones that's in the draft in the later rounds? But I mentioned it last week, well, just the other day, a certain person's mom is pushing for the son to show up. And, you're looking at him, I watch him play a lot, but his thing is he's more of a pass rusher than someone that you're going to bring in and stop the run. I think he was one that had the most missed tackles amongst defensive linemen last year, and he played over 600 snaps, and I don't know about him in the run game if he's missing tackles.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it would be interesting if you got the Bosa brothers together here in San Francisco. Of course, Mama Bosa no longer would have to wear the split jersey in that situation. God, nothing worse in sports than a split jersey. You know what I mean? I can't stand whenever I see that. It just makes it just makes something in my brain disconnect. Like that should never be a thing that someone goes and spends money on. I don't even know why that's an option. I don't know why they're created. Which team even gets the jersey sale for that jersey? You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So get the custom jersey out of here, the split jersey. Just pick one or the other, and maybe just like go with one jersey on top of the other, and when maybe take one off when one kid's on the field, put the other one on when the other kid's on the field. You know what I mean? But Joe, if you get them both on the 49ers, you kind of solve that problem if you're the Bosa family. So it would be interesting to see Joey in this system. I mean, he has played in at least 14 games over the past 2 seasons after injuries really limited him in 2022 and 2023. And he wasn't unplayable, right? And I think that when you're looking at a lot of what the 49ers had on the edge last year, borderline unplayable options. And he's not the only guy who's still sitting out there. A guy who you brought up a couple weeks ago at this point, Cameron Jordan, still available out there as an edge rusher. And of course, we're talking about, some of the older guys in the NFL at this position. Joey's not as old as you might think. He's entering his 2026 season at 31 years old, which doesn't sound as old as I think the mileage really is on Bosa's body. He's played a lot of football, had a lot of injuries over his career so far. And Cam Jordan, 37, entering the 2026 season. But I think Cam might have just as much left in the tank as Joey. What do you think if you had to choose between two of the older guard type players in Cam Jordan and Joey Bosa? Which one would you rather the 49ers bring in?
I would rather them bring in Cam Jordan because the guy he's a classic guy, and plus he will help the younger guys develop. I don't know that much about Joey, but I don't see him as somebody that's going to help a younger player as much as Cam Jordan would. And as far as going, I think Cam Jordan might have had 10 sacks last season, if I'm not mistaken, and that's a lot of sacks. And to bring a player in like him, I remember we brought in a couple of guys like that back in the day when we was trying to make it, when we made the run for the last Super Bowl, the 49ers won down in Miami against the Chargers. We brought Ricky Jackson in. And we also went out and got Richard Dent. We went and got some older guys, to put with the young guys. But Dent got hurt, but Ricky made it for the whole season. And we went and got Tim Harris, who came in too and helped us out quite a bit. So if you see that the young guys have something left in the tank, it's worth taking a chance on them, especially when you got a bunch of young guys. And that's what the 49ers have right now. They got quite a bit of young players, So I think bringing in a guy like Cam Jordan would be a plus.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they definitely lack some tutelage at that position, some experience. I mean, obviously you have Nick Bosa there, who's I think the veteran in the locker room at this point with that defensive line. But yeah, past him, it's a bunch of really young guys out there, and specifically in the middle, you got two rookies or two guys who are coming off rookie years, and then you have Mikael Williams also in the mix, who's entering his second year as well. So a lot of really key players on this team that are pretty young and could use that veteran leadership. Some other guys who are still around out there that the 49ers could maybe target: Hassan Reddick, most recently with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers edge rusher. But of course, 49ers fans remember him as the guy who destroyed Brock Purdy's elbow in the NFC Championship. And then you got Jadeveon Clowney, who may have the single greatest play that I've ever seen a defensive lineman make in college football. But that was a long time ago when he was when he was running around in a Gamecocks uniform. You know what I mean? But he plays with some nastiness still. He's going to be 33 in 2026. He's 12-year pro in the NFL, and he did have 8.5 sacks in last season in just 13 games. So I do think that all of these guys could offer you something, but there's another guy who I think the 49ers could have on their radar, and that's Cleve Farrell, because he's the guy who they brought in the middle of the season last year. He's already been in the locker room. He's been around the league for a while. He knows what the 49ers want to do up front. He knows how to play with the guys next to him at this point, or at least he should. I think that that's something that maybe you could find some success there, because one, I think he'd be cheaper than all these other options that we listed. Two, he's a guy who you can maybe, have some familiarity with and start running some games with up front. As Dwayne always loves to tell us on the show, you can't just put your head down and rush straight at the offensive lineman every single damn play for the entire 60 minutes. That's just not going to work. And maybe you need a guy with some familiarity with the rest of the key components of this 49ers defensive line to be able to start running some of those games and having some more success up front in that sense. What would you think about a Cleve Farrell reunion with the 49ers?
I think that's a good call. I kind of forgotten about him. Yeah, he will come back in and be a positive player for him. Like you say, he has familiarity with the defense and the players on the squad. So that would be a good call. It would be a lot less money involved in bringing him back too. We talked about if you're looking at who would be the cheapest guy, he would be because I know Bosa. He's probably want to get up in the 10 to $15 million range, probably, or even more.
Yeah, and Cleve Farrell will definitely not command that high of a salary as Bosa, or I think even Cam Jordan or Hassan Reddick, or really any of these guys that we mentioned. Cleve also led the 49ers in sacks last year. He had 4 of them. That's not a massive accomplishment. I think leading your team with sacks at a whopping 4 sacks is a little bit scary. But any of these guys that we just mentioned, Jadeveon Clowney would have doubled the sack total of the next closest 49er if he was on the team last year. And he only played 13 games. You need help at the position desperately. I agree. I think this is the one position where you maybe want to shore up one more of these kind of holes before you go into the draft, right? It's predictable that the team's going to have some holes that it still needs to plug in the draft, such as offensive line, safety, but you don't want to throw the edge rusher hole into the mix too. If you got those 3 position groups that you really got to solidify, I think you could find yourself kind of reaching for some players in certain positions and maybe just leaving yourself undermanned in a little thin in depth wise in some of these spots. But I think if you go out and sign one more veteran edge rusher, or conversely, one veteran safety, I think that either one of those signings would really bring this team into a great position going into the draft. Do you think that it's more imperative that they sign an edge rusher instead of a safety or even another offensive lineman?
Well, I think I would go with another edge rusher because right now it's not clear on when Bosa will be back in the fold to be able to go. So you're going to start the season out. He probably won't start the season out right away. He might miss the first 4 or 5 games. So with that, you have to go find a rusher. And then going back to the tackle situation, you never know what's going to happen there. And it's a guy floating around out there now. What's his name? With Detroit, Taylor Decker.
Yep.
And the guy only gave up, I think he only gave up 2 sacks the whole year last year. And I don't know why Detroit isn't putting money out for him or re-signing him. Maybe he's a bad guy in the locker room or something like that. But I would definitely do something with that. I would take a look at him. I would, kick the tires on that guy and see what's left in. And he's a young guy too. I think he's under 30 or is around 30 years old.
Yeah, he's 32, going to be 32 entering the 2026 season. And you're right. He was really dominant last year, especially in pass blocking. He had a pass block win rate of 89.3% last season, the second lowest of his career. But he's nails at that position. He is I can't imagine that this guy would be someone you wouldn't want on your team. Who knows how he is as a locker room presence, but the amount of toughness that he brings to every single game, he is a guy who plays with a level of nastiness. And maybe you're looking for something a little different to put at left tackle as opposed to right tackle, but I don't know. I think that Taylor Decker would be a great obvious backup kind of pivot for the 49ers if the Trent Williams thing doesn't work out. And speaking of Trent Williams, we do have to do our contractually obligated Trent Williams contract standoff update at some point in time during this show, which we will get to a little bit later on, because there was actually some news today from the 49ers. So stay tuned for that. But I really do think that they're going to end up getting it done. Ultimately, I think that Trent Williams probably wants to be here with the 49ers. I don't think you're really looking to relocate at 38 years old and uproot the family and move somewhere else and sell the house here and go do all that kind of stuff. I don't think Trent Williams really wants to do that. I think that he's probably just going to enjoy his last contract that he gets in the NFL. Hopefully it's here with the 49ers, and hopefully they can bring him a Super Bowl in his last season, what I think will be his last season in the NFL, which is this year. Do you foresee a world in which Trent Williams keeps playing past this season?
No, I don't, because he's been around a long time, and I've always said that if you get to a point where you think your mind is still there, but your body isn't, and now it's showing up with the injuries and the little things like that, And so I think at 39 years old, he probably want to call it quits after that. But you brought it up, his age at 38, so his contract paid him 38 million. Maybe he wants 39 million for his age.
Yeah, I mean, there is a pretty big discrepancy in that number versus the guaranteed dollars, and I think that's where they sit at. That's where the crux of the disagreement is he's scheduled to be paid like a premium tackle at the position, but the guaranteed money does not look the same. And as far as guaranteed money goes, he's about 15th ranked as far as offensive tackles go, left tackles go, and I think Trent wants to be. The guaranteed number he wants, I think, up in that upper echelon in the top 5 range for players at his position. So we'll see if they're able to bridge that somehow, and I do think they will. The 49ers, as you hear John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan say just repeatedly over and over again every single offseason, they're not in the business of getting rid of good players. I don't foresee a scenario in which they get rid of Trent Williams, and also the Brandon Ayuk situation is going to clear up some cap room for them. So you'll have some money to spend either way. Won't be the end of the world if you do have to overpay for Trent Williams a little bit. But I think that you're in a position right now where, unless Monroe Freeling is falling to you at 27th overall in the draft, which I really don't think is going to happen, you don't really have another viable solution at left tackle, except for maybe Taylor Decker. So I think if the 49ers thought that they weren't going to bring in Trent Williams back to San Francisco, they probably would have gone and signed Taylor Decker already, right?
Right. Yeah, I think, you mentioned it, Monroe Freely, that guy can come in and start right now at left tackle.
Yeah.
And that will create a lot of space, a lot of cap money. So it could be something there where John Lynch made the trip down to the University of Georgia to the football capital of the world for football players, for solid, offensive linemen, they come out with some good ones. You don't miss too many in Georgia on Georgia football players as offensive lineman wise. But I would say the 49ers are probably going to take him if he's there. And
they better. If he's available.
Yeah, and then if they take him, they don't have a problem. Trent's gone. I mean, I think he's going right away. No doubt about it. That's probably why they don't want to give him no guaranteed money.
You wouldn't want to see Trent stick around for one more year to kind of bring along the rook and impart some of that, being 38 and still playing in the NFL, you have just a huge amount of wisdom that you could pass on to the younger guard. Do you think that that's something that you'd want to see from Trent Williams, or would you rather just turn the page and let the rookie get in there and start learning his own path in the NFL?
I would just go with the rookie, and I would go with him right away. I mean, he's going to excel, and he's going to have some times when he's going to struggle some. But hey, got to go look at the 49ers schedule and see what rushes they're facing this year too. Now,
yeah,
that's the thing you got to look at too. If they're not facing any top elite rushers, which I don't think they're going to, then it's a no-brainer. Take him.
Yeah, I think they would if he's there. I think the biggest question mark about Monroe Freeling is he going to be available when the 49ers pick at 27? And I personally think that answer is no, but no. I really, really, really hope he is. So, but just to kind of keep pulling on that thread, when I'm looking around at the opponents the 49ers got, you got the Cardinals, Rams, and Seahawks twice each, obviously. Then you got the Broncos, the Eagles, the Raiders, the Commanders, the Vikings, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Giants, and the Falcons. Now, when I'm looking at this list, I don't really see a whole lot of, like you said, top-tier pass rushers in this list. I mean, Max Crosby back with the Raiders. Now, the rest of the Raiders defense doesn't really strike a whole lot of fear, but Max Crosby, he can do some things coming off the edge. The Commanders, not really. The Vikings had a pretty good defense last year, and obviously Brian Flores is going to bring a lot of heat and a lot of pressure, mixing and matching where the blitzes are coming from. The Dolphins don't really have much going for them. The Chargers, don't really have a ton going for them as far as the pass rush goes. Chiefs, same deal. Cowboys, same deal. Giants, Falcons, all kind of same boat there. And you got some pass rushers in LA. You got some pass rushers in Seattle. We know this. Denver, obviously, a very good defense in the NFL. The Eagles, Vic Fangio is going to be bringing a lot of different looks. You know that you're going to face a couple teams this year that are going to be able to generate a pretty solid pass rush. But ultimately, when you're looking at the rest of the schedule, especially the road schedule, I think the 49ers kind of have a little bit of an easier path as far as protecting the passer goes than they've had in recent years. So hopefully that's something that can kind of help them out a little bit this year and maybe mask some of those problems that they still currently have on the offensive line. We still don't know who the left guard for this team is, by the way. We still have no idea who that's going to be, and it could be someone that's already on the roster. I think they do have a couple guys they could rotate over to that position. But it's still a hole, and you still also have a couple free agents sitting around out there. Do you think that maybe they could go out and sign like a Joel Bitonio or someone like that?
They possibly could, but the easiest position to me along the offensive line to play is guard, and that's the easiest position of all. So it's not that hard finding a good guard. And I never looked at, during my whole career of playing and coaching, I never paid that much attention to guards. Yeah, because it seems like, well, they're kind of like, they're pilot fish, okay? They kind of go off the tackle. If the tackle's good, they're good. If you got a bad tackle, you're going to have a bad guard. So that's the way I look at it. So
that's funny. Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you, but there is also the part of me that watched Mike Iupati play for the San Francisco 49ers with Frank Gore running back, and watching Harbaugh run that power run every single time, pulling Mike Iupati from the left side to the right side, and watching Mike just lead block through that giant hole that would be generated by the 49ers offensive line. And Iupati would just pancake linebacker after linebacker after linebacker, just decleating guys out there. And man, I know that not every offensive guard is going to turn into a Mike Iupati and that those guys are hard to find, but man, oh man, would I love the 49ers to have a guard who could just do that kind of stuff again, a guy who can pull and just be fearsome in the run blocking scheme. And you know, Banks was good. He wasn't sniffing Mike Iupati territory. And I know that none of these guys that are available in free agency are of a Mike Iupati level, and that guy was just a freak athlete for the position. But man, I loved watching that guy play for the 49ers. And obviously Frank Gore had a ton of success running behind him. So I do think that there is something there that could be said for having a skilled guard at the position. But yeah, it's definitely not one of the premium positions in the NFL it's not a pass rusher. It's not your left tackle. It's not your number one wide receiver. But it's still something that I think is important. And you've seen how bad the 49ers run game was last year when they didn't really have continuity on that left side of the line. And I think that more than anything, you just got to know who that guy's going to be early on. And I think that if you can figure that out in training camp, but like in preseason before week 1 of the NFL actual season, that will be very, very, very helpful for this offensive line group to know who are we working with, and for Christian McCaffrey to know, how am I supposed to read this guy? Where am I going to run when I'm going to that side? Like, am I looking for the cutback? Like, how's this guy block? And how can I, find some holes off of what this guy is doing over there? So I think that it's important for them to have continuity more so than figuring out whoever the hell is going to be at that position. I just hope they figure it out soon. I don't really care who the body is at this point. I just want an answer. I just want an answer.
Yeah, continuity counts. I'm probably going to get some hate mail from Kevin Gogan and Ray Brown because Gog now, he was so big, he blocked out daylight, and so was Ray Brown. So those guys was large up in there, and they did a great job blocking for Garrison Hurst. So I would probably I probably won't get invited to no Christmas party that either one of those two is throwing. Talking about guards.
Man, a Kevin Gogan Christmas party would be would be a sight to see, man. He's a pretty out there guy, and I bet he knows how to have a good party. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he probably would throw a great one.
Well, we got a lot more to get into on today's show. On the other side, let's talk about where John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have had success in the draft and where they've had some swings and misses, because we all know about the first round misses that have happened over the years. I mean, we're all well aware of the Solomon Thomas pick, of like the Reuben Foster pick, Javon Kinlaw, guys like that. Those live in our brains. We also remember George Kittle being a late round steal. So where do John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan generally hit on draft picks, and where do they generally miss? That's what's next here on the Locked On 49ers podcast. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft. And for me, I'm going with Strawberry Banana, a tropical delight with strawberry, a taste that goes in everything from smoothies to milkshakes to ice cream and cakes. And you know, it's sweet strawberry flavor up front, soft mellow banana finish. It's super smooth, creamy fruit profile, reminiscent of a fruit smoothie. And I got that heartburn issue going all the time, and it's got very low acidity, easy to drink, which is just music to my ears. A gentle, sweet aftertaste. Strawberry Banana is hard to go wrong with picking that as your number one. But as far as sleepers go, Cotton Candy might be sneaking up on that, because even though it is a sweeter flavor, it's not overly sweet. It's got a light, airy candy flavor profile, gives you a throwback flavor to just being a kid, and also gives you that caffeine boost that you're looking for. Sweet tooth fix without any sugar guilt, because 5 Hour Energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar. Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers squad show. The Locked On 49ers squad show. Feels like the Locked On 49ers podcast, since we're missing part of our squad. You know, it's only a two-man squad today, just me and your four-time Super Bowl champion, Dwayne Board. And Dwayne, I want to talk about the 49ers brass, the John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan brain trust, and their track record over the draft, and when they have found success, when they have had some misses. So let's turn the time machine back a little bit, a couple of years, and we can start with Solomon Thomas. And he's played 9 seasons in the NFL. He's kind of been a journeyman at this point in his career, but they picked him at number 3 overall. Did not live up to what we expected from him, and that was a swing and a miss. Reuben Foster, the off the field stuff, he never quite got that figured out, but when he was on the field, he was pretty good. So hard to kind of make a determination on that one, but ultimately the best ability is availability, and Foster was not available very often for the 49ers. Mike McGlinchey, pretty solidly good draft pick. Nick Bosa, good draft pick. Javon Kinlaw, I don't think we really need to go into how bad of a move that was, letting DeForest Buckner go to just let Javon Kinlaw, of all people, come in and replace him, getting into it with Grant Cohn at practice, and that whole saga, the pushing and shoving and knocking off the hat. Oh, man. And so Javon Kinlaw definitely did not work out here in San Francisco. Trey Lance, gigantic swing and miss, probably the biggest swing and miss that you could find in their draft history. And of course, Brandon Ayuk, who is kind of a little bit of a mixed bag as well, because obviously when he was on the field for the 49ers, he was great, but then he came with all this baggage. So when you're looking at the first round, it's a little hit and miss, right? Like you're missing a little more on these first rounders than you would like to. And I know not every first round pick in the NFL is going to work out. Every fan base wants thinks at the time that your first round pick should always work out. And that's just not how it happens in the NFL. But Dwayne, as far as your confidence in these guys, are you confident that they're going to be able to pick a guy at number 27 overall who's going to be a hit, because you kind of got to hit on someone this year, because whoever you're picking at that position, they're probably starting for this 49ers football team in week 1.
You're right. They are a starter on the team that they have right now. And you go back and look, if the 49ers are the worst drafting team in the top 20. So you got to look at that too. And it's, hey, if you're sitting there and it's a guy, if you're not quite sure or positive on it, if no coach in that draft room jumps up and say, hey, we got to take this guy, you go with it. But if no coach jump up, and because when they drafted Trey Lance, it was a lot of guys out there that wasn't real high on Trey Lance. So that's a omen. And Solomon Thomas too. You watch. I know why, because I was in Seattle when he was drafted, and watching him on film he didn't really dominate at the line of scrimmage. He was a guy that made plays on the move, but when the ball came at him, he struggled a lot. He had a hard time getting off double team blocks and all of that. And you look at where were they who was behind those players when they could have got a lot better if they would have moved down. And sometimes those high picks, that's the worst pick to have when you either pick in the top 5. You would rather be a little lower in the draft. There's too many of those guys that failed, and it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, and the Trey Lance pick felt very much like drafting for need over drafting for who the best player was at the time, and that's the risk that you run when you trade 3 first-round draft picks for one guy, and you're drafting that one guy based on need, not based on best player overall. And I know I said that probably a million times in our show on Wednesday, but man, I just need this team to stop trying to hunt whoever is the guy that they think fits their system the best that's available out there, and just go get the best damn football player that you can see out there. And I know that that's, you're going to have some disagreements there. And obviously, even if you're drafting the guy who looks like the best available, that could still result in a miss. But I think Reuben Foster is a good example of that. He was definitely the best player available when they drafted him, talent-wise, and it ended up not working out. And so you still end up missing on some of those picks, but I think you very much so, you're more than likely to hit on a guy that you're picking just because he's a damn good football player, rather than, well, this guy, I think he could fit into our system well. I don't. Maybe you can go draft those guys in the 5th round, in the 6th round. Go ahead and find those system guys in undrafted free agency. That's fine with me. Do not waste your 1st-round pick on a guy that you think just fits the system. It's a bad choice. It's a bad move. The 49ers should be doing something to go improve this football team, regardless of what position they play, what system they come from. Just go get the best damn football player. It's so frustrating to me, especially early on, to watch teams do anything other than this. But we've seen the 49ers kind of do a mix of both. Like when they drafted Bosa, he was clearly the best overall available player. And it was also happened to be a position of very, very, very high need for the 49ers. So that one kind of worked out. And maybe you can have a situation like that where sometimes that does work out. But again, Javon Kinlaw, draft him for need over draft him best player available, and you see the results. There weren't very many good ones. So the 49ers, I just want them to draft at 27, whoever the hell the best player is. And if you don't really see anyone that's jumping off the board, move down, trade down, and recoup some of those draft picks, and maybe go beef up that defense and that offensive line. Take more swings instead of just taking that one big swing on the guy that you're not quite sure about. So moving on from the 1st round, the 2nd round, you've had some good ones here. You had Deebo Samuel, Aaron Banks, more recently, Renardo Green and Alfred Collins, who are still kind of the book's still out on them, but they've been, I think, pretty solid. They've been starting caliber players so far for the 49ers. You also have guys like Dante Pettis and Drake Jackson, who were gigantic swings and misses. Dante Pettis, never seemed to really get things going, never seemed to be able to stay healthy enough to get on the field. And Drake Jackson, kind of the same thing. Drake Jackson, I can't even remember a single play that he made in a 49ers uniform. He's now moved on to the Washington Commanders. So, Dwayne, as far as the second round picks go, which these are pretty important too, it's pretty low hit rate here, like below 50%. And so when you're talking about Shanahan and Lynch drafting in those first 60 picks, there's a lot of misses here. And I don't think this is a draft where you can afford to have this many misses. And that is a somewhat frustrating situation. But when you look at the guys that they've been able to draft in the third and fourth rounds, which is where the 49ers have the majority of their picks in this draft, you get some good ones. Aleko Witherspoon, who was very, very good while he was here in the 49ers system. He's been good elsewhere since he's moved on. CJ Beathard, I think he was pretty solid for the 49ers considering what he was working with when the 49ers drafted him. Jair Brown has been, I think, a decent player as far as where you drafted him, a third-round pick. But in the fourth round, obviously, you got CJ West, Jordan Watkins, Jacob Cowing, Isaac Guerrero, Malik Mustafa. All those guys are still kind of TBD, but a lot of them kind of trending towards not being such great picks. Kentavious Street, Joe Williams, guys who really did not work out for this team. But you did have a Spencer Burford. And I mean, I think the 49ers can do some cooking here in these third and fourth rounds. Again, that's when they have the majority of their picks in this draft. And that's when you see other teams start to really build the core of their team. Like I look at the Seattle Seahawks as the blueprint, right? They did such a good job of using these mid-round picks to draft very solid players in the NFL, guys with high floors, maybe not the highest ceilings in the world, but guys with high floors. And at that spot in the draft, I think that's the perfect draft strategy. You want a guy who's going to just not sink your football team. And I think that the 49ers are going to be able to find some gems in these middle rounds here. Dwayne, do you think that the 49ers should try to continue, rip that page out of the Seahawks draft book and just try to get guys with high floors, not necessarily going for the big boom or bust pick, but going for guys who maybe they're not going to be the most athletic guy out there. Maybe they're not going to be, hitting 35, 40 reps on the bench as an O-lineman, but maybe they got really great footwork. Maybe you really like the coaching scheme that they came from and this and that and the other thing. And those types of guys in those middle rounds, I think can be a solid addition to a team. Dwayne, do you think the 49ers should kind of adopt that Seattle Seahawks draft philosophy and maybe go target those guys with the higher floors instead of the higher ceilings?
Well, I know with John up in Seattle, he spends a lot of time on those middle round players, and in the draft meetings they talk about them, and every guy gets a shot at. I'm talking about everybody that's in the draft room gets a shot at what they think of the player. And when we used to go over those high draft picks, we didn't spend that much time on them because that wasn't his thing. Because everybody else is talking about them, but he's looking for those middle round guys, the guys that solid guys that help you build your team to where you want it. You're not going to be in a situation where I'm going to take a guy in the second round because he dropped to the second round. He was supposed to be in the first round, and now you sitting there and say, we need this guy. He dropped for a reason, okay? Yeah. And you don't mess with those guys. But there's quite a few players in that third, fourth, and fifth round. Those are the guys, the backbone of your team. And when you start digging for gold, thinking that you're going to get a high draft pick and this guy's going to turn your team around, hey, all you're going to do is come up with some fool's gold. I wouldn't touch it for nothing in the world. And that's one thing that you have to do too, is draft players that fit your scheme in those rounds. You can't just go out and get this guy because you said, well, this guy can bench press 40 reps and he can broad jump 12 feet, but can he fit in your scheme? That's another thing you have to do. I know every year when Coach Walsh was running the 49ers as a coach, he would bring in all the scouts, okay? And as a coach, you had to get in front of all these scouts and tell the scouts exactly what player you was looking for to fit your scheme. It wasn't about, and the scout saying this guy can do this and this, he can do that, but can he fit your scheme? So you had to explain to the scout what you were looking for, the the type of player. So, and that was a big factor in the success of the 49ers over the years. It was the scheme. And when other coaches left and went to other teams, what did they do? They took the 49 away with them, and they turned things around. Mike Holmgren, that's what he did when he went to Green Bay. He took the 49 away with him to Green Bay. And the same way with Mike Shanahan. When Mike Shanahan left and went to back to Denver, he took the 49 away. So that's how you build a team, is letting your people who goes out looking for players know exactly what you need to play in your scheme.
Yeah, and I think another side of this is the 49ers just becoming, we kind of touched on it there a little bit, the 49ers becoming so enamored with, well, this guy was amazing in his season 2 years ago in college, and he's got all these amazing physical metrics, but well, maybe he might have like a knee injury that you gotta get over first. Like the number of guys that they have drafted who have had torn ACLs prior to their NFL careers that just did not work out as pros, it's a huge number. It's an astronomical number, that the number of times that they have taken this chance and have repeatedly had it not work out. And I know that it's worked out in the past and sometimes a very long time ago, but it's not something that nowadays that I would be super confident in. I mean, there's a lot of players that the 49ers have gone and drafted that had prior injury history that we know about, that's well documented, and they're joint problems. It's not like a soft tissue thing where you're thinking, okay, like this guy had a hammy that bugged him for a whole year and that'll improve, that'll get better. But needing a complete reconstruction of your knee, of a joint, of a ligament, that's a completely different ball game. And the 49ers seem to take a lot of risks on guys like that. And that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about when I say that I want the 49ers to go and draft a guy with a high floor, not necessarily the guy with the highest ceiling, because the guy with the highest ceiling, he might have the lowest floor of anybody out there as well, because of some of these lingering issues. And like you said, if a guy with a super high ceiling is falling that low, there's a reason that he's fallen that low. And it's because the risk might not be worth the reward. And I need the 49ers front office to maybe take that into consideration a little bit more when you're looking at the cost analysis of these draft picks, and maybe play it a little bit safer and go get some guys who will have a high floor and be able to be contributors right away. And I think that you can find a lot of those guys in those middle rounds. So we'll see what the 49ers do as we get going. Just to round it out, by the way, the 49ers in later rounds, they've done pretty good. I would say that they have had more success in the later rounds than they have in the early rounds. I mean, you've had guys like Jawan Jennings, a 7th round pick, Brock Purdy, obviously Mr. Irrelevant, Tatum Bethune, who played really great last year in filling in for Fred Warner before he was injured himself, 7th round pick as well. And you look in the 6th round, Eli Mitchell, who was a very good running back before Christian McCaffrey got here, had a 1,000-yard season for the 49ers. D. Winters, I think he's been pretty serviceable for a 6th round pick. Charlie Warner, even, I think that's another guy who's been pretty solid for where they drafted him. I mean, to have this long of a career after getting drafted in the 6th round and being able to, I know he's a specialist and he's only really in for blocking situations, but hey, Charlie Warner, was able to help the 49ers out in some ways. DJ Jones, a 6th round pick. He was a very, very good defensive lineman for the 49ers. And that's exactly the kind of guy that you're hoping you can find in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, is a guy like a DJ Jones, who, I mean, it's basically a home run pick if you can get a guy like DJ Jones in the 6th round. So we'll see if they're able to kind of get some of that late round magic going. But I really think that this is a year where you can't really afford to miss on those early round picks. And the 49ers have missed a lot over the years. And this cannot be a repeat of those situations. So whatever you're doing at 27, you need to make sure that it's a guy who can come in and start for this team right away. Right away. That's the only thing that I want from the 49ers at the number 27 overall pick.
Yeah, you don't want that beauty queen sitting on the bench and nobody sitting around it. Or sitting around them when the game's going bad. So that's not good. But hey, I think it's going to be one of those situations where it's a lot of receivers in the draft. They're going to find one, and one of the guys is going to sneak out somewhere in the draft. And we haven't talked about one guy. You didn't bring up Ricky. Okay.
True.
Yeah, what's his second year? The third year, you got to turn the corner, and that's the year that you become a football player. Is your third year, okay? Your first year, okay, you got the little bit of leeway. Second year, you got to show something midway through the season. Third year, you got to be you got to be a Pro Bowl player. That's what Jerry Rice was. I remember Jerry Rice's first year. He was dropping balls all over the place. He came back his second year. He started catching. Came back his third year. Hey, he was running. He was running like Forrest Gump. Matter of fact, that was one of his nicknames, Forrest Gump. Run, Jerry, run.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, you really hope that Pearsall can take the next step, because that would just make this offense, I think, very formidable. I mean, if you have a Mike Evans, and who knows how much healthy Mike Evans you're going to get this next year, but if you got a healthy Mike Evans and you got a healthy Ricky Pearsall, and Pearsall is able to take that next step, because we've seen flashes, right? Like this guy, when he is healthy and when he is locked in, he runs some crispy routes, man. Like he is making dudes. I can't remember exactly which game it was. I know it was in about like the last third of the season when he made a defensive back just completely fall down when just by running around, crossing him up, and just made a guy just get his ankles crossed and end up on the ground and on the turf. And that is exactly the kind of stuff that I want to see from Ricky Pearsall. I mean, he is a guy who has very, very, very good route tree, and he just has pure natural catching ability, and he's got the speed, he's got the quickness. He should be able to develop into a very good wide receiver in this league. He just needs to be able to stay on the damn football field. And the more time that he spends off the field, hurt in the tent, on the sideline, the more that it's going to take him, or the longer it's going to take him to develop into a good football player, because the only way you're going to get better is by getting more snaps and get more reps. And so I really hope that Ricky can turn the corner this year. It would really make the 49ers pass catchers very formidable. So speaking of that, on the other side, let's get into some expectations, some way too early predictions for 2026. That's what's coming up next here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board, especially right now in the middle of March Madness. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits for your betting style, and you can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. I've been really locked in on this NCAA tournament. Dwayne and I, just before the show, were talking about VCU, which was my pick yesterday in the first day of the tournament. Right now, I think they just tipped off, but Iowa, I know that's not as big of an upset, 9 over an 8 seed, but that's my pick today. I really like this Iowa team. I know that they didn't play the best at the end of their at the end of the tournament in the Big Ten, and they lost a couple games at the end of the season, but Clemson really banged up. I like the way that Iowa plays. I like the way that they play with pace, move the ball really well. So I'm riding with Iowa. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with even more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion. And Dwayne, it's time to make some too early predictions for 2026. Now that we're seeing what this roster mostly will look like going forward, what are you thinking for this team? I mean, we don't know we know the opponents. We don't know exactly how some of these things are going to play out, like the Australia game and such. There's going to be a lot of complexities in this 49er football season. They're traveling enough miles to circle the globe 1.5 times in this upcoming season. So it's a lot that they got to deal with. But when you're looking at the moves that they've made, when you're looking at the schedule, let's just get right into it. Are 49ers making the playoffs? Are they a threat to win this division?
Well, you hope that Seattle get that hangover, Super Bowl hangover, so that eliminates them. You looking at the Rams, okay? That'll be the one that's going to be a competitive game, but the one that also might not play much to a factor in the conference is Arizona, because I don't think they got it. Okay, I mean, even though they brought in a new quarterback and all of that, and a new head coach, but they don't have it. They don't have it. Okay, so with that said, the game that they're gonna have to take is the 2 from the Rams, okay, and 2 from the Seahawks, and if they get rolling like they did last year and keep it going, because when they got it rolling, it was great, but injuries killed them, and that's when you got to reach back and do what? You got to grab your backups and hope they contribute just like last season. Yeah, the backups did a great job, and they carried the team until Brock Purdy was able to get back, and it was a positive year for him.
Yeah, and it was definitely a plethora of injuries that the 49ers had to deal with last year, and that ultimately derailed their season, a battle of attrition that they ultimately lost. But I do think that this team is going to be able to compete with the Rams and with the Seahawks for an NFC West champion or title, an NFC West first round bye probably as well. I think whatever team is coming out of the West is going to earn that first round bye. It's one of the toughest divisions in football, probably the toughest division in football. But last year, the Rams, I think, clearly looked like the second best team in football behind the Seattle Seahawks. And I don't think it was particularly close. You can throw in whoever you want as team number 3. And I think the Rams and the Seahawks were head and shoulders above whoever that number 3 team is that you want to throw out there. And who knows if it's going to be the same next season. But the 49ers, I think, have closed that gap between them and the Rams, definitely, with what they've done in free agency so far. I need them to close it a little more in the draft. And the Rams made a couple really good moves as well. I mean, really upgraded the cornerback position, which was something they desperately needed to do. Their secondary is much improved over what it was last season. So the Rams got a little bit better as well. I think the 49ers did a little bit more work than the Rams, though, and that could potentially help them catch up just a little bit. So I do think that the 49ers, it's got to happen eventually where they have a season where they are healthier than the year before. And I keep saying it every year, man, they can't have as many injuries this year as they did last year. And it just keeps happening. So I'm going to say it one more time because, I like to get hurt. I don't learn my lesson after it bites me the first time. I got to keep going back over and over again before it finally gets drilled through my thick skull that this probably isn't the greatest idea. But hey, I'm going back to what I know, which is the age-old adage that it's got to regress to the mean, right? Like the numbers and statistics say that you cannot continue to be the most injured team in all of football year after year after year after year after year. Eventually, you'll kind of have a normal season. And I'm thinking that maybe for the 49ers, it's in 2026. Maybe I'm the optimist on the show, but I'm thinking that maybe the 49ers this next coming season just don't get completely decimated by injuries before, October is over. And maybe they'll have a little bit more in the tank later on in the season. But I do think that the big key to this 49ers season it's going to be the passing game. I think that the defense is going to be improved. I think that there's some things that defense can do to make the team marginally better for sure compared to where they were last year. Rushing the passer better, shoring up things on the back end in the secondary. Those two things will make this 49ers football team better. There's no question about it. But the thing that I think could improve this team by the widest of margins is absolutely the Mike Evans signing. And if Ricky Pearsall can figure his S out at the receiver position, because man, if you have those two guys running and you got CMC back there, George Kittle comes back, and you got Brock Purdy, a quarterback, that offense should be one of the most prolific offenses in the NFL. And I really do think that if all of those guys are healthy on the field at the same time, clicking, that this passing offense, you can really unlock some special stuff with it, because the way that Brock Purdy is going to be able to attack you down deep on the sideline, over the middle, in the flat with Christian McCaffrey, the screen game, George Kittle with the catch and runs, this group can hurt you in so many different ways. The versatility that they have with a big body receiver like Mike Evans, a really fast, shifty guy like Ricky Pearsall, a guy who just wants to take your head off and just lower the shoulder and blow you up like George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey, who's the best receiving running back in all of football in maybe the last 20 years since Marshall Faulk was in the league. I mean, they have so many options. They're so versatile. Dwayne, what do you think the ceiling is for this offense if everything goes right, barring injuries? Let's just say hypothetically everybody stays healthy and the 49ers get them for at least the majority of the year, that core group. What do you think this offense looks like if that's the case?
Well, I think they will be one of the top offenses in the league, but it's one thing that's kind of bothersome is they need a 1-2 punch at running back, okay? We talked about it on a lot of shows that when McCaffrey's in the backfield, everybody's keying on him. So they need a 1-2 punch at running back where McCaffrey can use his skills in the open field, getting the ball in his hands and going to Ricky. Ricky's got to change that jersey, man. He can't be wearing that NASA space shuttle jersey. You know, the space shuttle only flies when the weather's perfect, and he's got to get his weather predictions right when he's on the field. Because I think that's his holdback right now is he's thinking that, hey, I have to be 100% to play the game. No, you don't. Champions play hurt. They play any kind. They play, on one leg, two legs. Look at Kittle, okay?
Yeah.
Go hang around Kittle a little bit and learn how to be a tough guy. So that's what's missing with him, I think. If he gets to be a tough guy this season, hey, the sky's the limit. And like I said, they need the 1-2 punch at running back. If they can get a 1-2 punch at running back, that's a big key to the offense being more successful. Don't you think?
Yeah, and I mean, they had the opportunity to do that last year with Brian Robinson, and they never really leaned into that. I mean, I can think of maybe like 2 games where Robinson had more than just like 3 or 4 very inconsequential touches. And you need to give Christian McCaffrey a little bit of a breather, right? Like, you can't have this guy have another 400 plus touches next season. I mean, he's going to end up in the hospital before the end of the year. I mean, this guy might not even have ankles anymore by the end of the season if you're putting him into the ground. And I completely agree with you that they need a second running back. And do you think that guy could potentially still be on the roster right now? I mean, I know Robinson is probably gone in free agency, but I mean, you got some other options back there. I mean, you drafted a guy last year that you didn't really see play much at all. And I think that maybe we could, you still got Garendo back there who's he's been okay at times, and at other times he's just been, kind of missing. You're just wondering, where the hell did this guy go? Speaking of guys that Ricky Pearsall hangs out with, I just saw that he and Garendo were taking a trip together. They're posting about it on their social media accounts. But it's definitely something that I would like to see is, like you're saying, the 49ers getting a second back going and not just relying so much on Christian McCaffrey. And maybe you can take some of those, where you're just running plays to set up other plays type situations. Maybe you let the backup get a couple of those runs in and put some miles on him instead of on Christian McCaffrey's legs. I think that'd be a wise decision for the 49ers.
A guy that's on the roster, who is it? Patrick Taylor? maybe he can be a guy that can come in and be that second guy that gives you that 1-2 punch.
Yeah, right now they got Christian McCaffrey, Isaac Guerrero, Patrick Taylor, and Jordan James. And I really like Jordan James. You talk about a team that really lacks speed. Jordan James has a ton of speed, and this guy could really provide, I think, a shifting gears that would really kind of throw defenses off, because Christian McCaffrey, he's not. I'm not saying he's slow, but he doesn't have that same incredible burst speed that he used to have earlier in his career, especially after all the injuries. He's still a workhorse. He's still incredible and very, very shifty guy, but he just doesn't have that sixth gear speed that he once did. Jordan James, he might have a seventh and eighth gear. I mean, that guy gets moving, and I really want to see him get some opportunities in open space and see what he can do. And man, I said it at the beginning of this last season, and I stand by what I said. The 49ers really miss Jordan Ponches Mason in that backfield, having a guy to just drop the hammer. And man, the complementary running style that he offered to a Christian McCaffrey was just excellent, supreme for the 49ers. And he rightfully got paid somewhere else in Minnesota, and he deserved a chance to start with what he did here in San Francisco. But it would be really nice if they could find another Jordan Ponches Mason to go back there with Christian McCaffrey. I miss that guy. I really do. I really do.
Well, then that gives you your 1-2 punch that they need in the backfield. And
exactly.
Yeah. And we got to look at also the 49ers. We haven't talked about the quarterback. What are they going to do with the backup quarterback? Are they going to move him during their draft, or?
Still remains to be seen, and we're running out of time here, so maybe a topic for another day on the Mac Jones discussion. But yeah, very interesting to see what they're going to do there. I mean, you could get probably at least a third round for Mac Jones. Probably could get a second rounder, I think, for him if the right team is out there. But we'll see what happens in the draft. We'll see what happens in the days leading up to the draft. Before we get on out of here, got a little very quick Brandon Ayuk update. I know it's not what we all want to talk about. And we got a little bit of a Trent Williams update on the other side. Just doing some housekeeping before the end of the show. I am just as tired of talking about it as you guys are of hearing about it. But hey, these two moves kind of predicate what the 49ers are going to be able to do for the rest of this offseason. So that's what we're going to talk about next here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by the people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures, and cleared swaps involving trades, significant risks, and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by four-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board. And Dwayne, two real quick updates before we get on out of here. Trent Williams first. Adam Schefter tweeted earlier today, quote, with today's 4 p.m. Eastern time deadline looming, the 49ers are opting not to exercise the $10 million option bonus in Trent Williams' contract per sources. Schefter also said that Williams' salary cap number will now grow to $47 million, but the team is not overly concerned about it, and it's still planning to rework his contract before next month's NFL draft, end quote. So, $47 million is an astronomical amount of money, Dwayne. That is Brock Purdy level money, and I know that's probably not the number that's actually going to hit the cap this next year. The 49ers and Trent Williams will very likely, I don't think that there's any scenario that the 49ers allow that number to hit the cap. They either release him or they trade him or they rework the contract. I don't think that you're going to see Trent Williams at a $47 million amount coming to play football in Santa Clara next year. It's just not going to happen. It's too much money. But the one thing that this move also does is now it makes the 49ers converts most of that money to bonuses. It's not guaranteed money. Not all of this money is going to be in the guaranteed pot, which I think that's where the dispute is. I think Trent Williams wants more guaranteed money. I think that he'd be probably okay if it wasn't a $47 million tag, because that's a pretty insane number for a 38-year-old football player to be making. But at the same time, what do you think what do you think that magic number is, Dwayne? Like, where do you think that these two entities can kind of meet in the middle?
Well, Trent Williams, I don't think he'll take a penny less than what he made last year. And with that, the 49ers are looking at his bonus money on games played. So how many games is he going to be active, and how many games for the season that they can count on him playing? So that's probably a big hold up in getting the whole deal done, because they're not going to go out there and just give him, that kind of money, even that kind of money he made last year. If he's not playing 17 games a season, there's no way they can blink an eye at that, putting that check in the mail.
Yeah, and if they were able to reach an extension as far as like a restructure goes, if they were able to extend his contract, it would potentially clear up somewhere around 16 million for the 49ers to use in other areas. So he does have the 6th highest contract from a total value perspective at left tackle, but he's only 17th in guarantees at the position. So again, I think that he wants more guaranteed money. I think he's okay if that number is not number 1 overall at the position, but I think he's got to have some more guaranteed money. And I think ultimately that's going to be what the 49ers are able to do for him. And I think that you kind of have to, right? Like, you have some other options there, but unless you're going to get a gift at number 27 and the rest of 26 other teams are going to pass on left tackles in this draft, I don't think you're getting that gift at number 27. Or maybe you want to jump up and grab one, but I also don't know that this is the draft to be trading up in. So we'll see what happens with the Trent Williams situation. But the Brandon Ayuk thing also still kind of brewing underneath the surface. It's kind of just a wait and see game at this point. It's waiting to see if any team in the NFL is willing to jump and send out a trade offer for him. And I think it's kind of, as the league kind of thinks that it's a foregone conclusion that Ayuk is going to the Washington Commanders. I think pretty much everybody sees that as his destination, whether it's the Commanders trading for him or the Commanders signing him after the 49ers release him. I don't know, man. It just seems like there's benefits to both sides, right? Like, you don't want to just give away guys that are under contract and that you pay a lot of money to. You want to get something back for them. So I get why the 49ers want to get something that in terms of draft capital back for Brandon Ayuk. But the way that this is playing out, I could see this maybe taking a while to get done. I think they do have to get rid of him or make a decision on what's going to happen by June. Otherwise, there's some salary cap implications. So, Dwayne, what do you think about this Brandon Ayuk situation? Are you just completely tired of hearing about it? Because I know I am.
I'm with you. It's been like a broken record, man. This guy, hey, put him on a space shuttle and let him go to the moon or something, because, man, I'm tired of hearing about him too. They need to just go ahead and move on from him, because June the 1st is the deadline. So they got to make a decision, or they're going to have to pay him, or they're going to have to trade him, or they're going to have to cut him. So I look for him to cut him, because nobody is buying his stock right now.
No, nobody's taking any swings, but things can change quickly on draft night, and maybe there's a team that misses out on a wide receiver that then decides, maybe it's worth it. And so I think the 49ers are going to hold on to him at least until the draft. I really don't expect anything to change, and I expect this situation, this stalemate, to just be just as aggravating as it's been for the last year. I expect that to continue on into this offseason. I don't really foresee a scenario where the 49ers hold on to him going past that June deadline. That would just be I think, a little wasteful from a cap perspective. That's a lot of money to be spending on a player who isn't going to play football for the 49ers ever again. You've already heard John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan say that Brandon Ayuk's played his last snap as a 49er. So I don't think there's any rectifying that. I don't think you come back from that. I mean, it's a little bit different when you look at the Max Crosby situation versus the Brandon Ayuk situation. The Raiders never publicly stated that they did not want the guy to play football for them anymore. So it's not a tenable situation for Brandon Ayuk to stay with the 49ers. But I guess there is a very, very unlikely scenario which they could keep him past that deadline and hold him hostage and just kind of wait for someone to trade for him, like another Bay Area team did, cross-sport reference here, in the Golden State Warriors with Jonathan Kuminga, just having this guy sit on the bench with all this talent and just knowing that the situation isn't going to be remedied and that he's not going to play, but refusing to trade him anywhere at the same time. And that was the most, just as a Bay Area sports fan, that was the most aggravating situation that I think I've watched between a player and a franchise maybe ever in my entire life as a Bay Area sports fan, was the Jonathan Kuminga versus Steve Kerr and the Warriors stalemate. That was just, I mean, for years and years and years, just a drag on that franchise. And you don't want the same thing with Brandon Ayuk. Point being, if you got to cut him by that June deadline, just cut him. At a certain point, just cut your losses. Take the little bit of extra money that you're going to recoup from it. Move on, turn the page, and just wash that stank off of you. Go take a shower and just get back out there. You know what I mean? Just move on to the next one. It's like trying to salvage a bad relationship. You know what I mean? Like you've been with this girl forever, and you know that when the good times are good, they're really good. But you're just maybe like, if you're just holding on to any hope, any memories of when times were good, I got news for you, man. It's going to continue to spiral and get bad. And if those bad things have outweighed the good things in the past, going forward, these bad things are going to keep happening. She hasn't shown you that she's changed. She's not going to therapy. Brandon Ayuk has not shown you that he's changed. He's not out there going to therapy and working on himself. And maybe he is. Maybe he is doing those things. I actually don't know if Brandon Ayuk's going to therapy or not. But he hasn't shown you that he's changed in these meaningful ways. Don't believe him. Don't believe him when you're just looking back at those memories and you're thinking, well, maybe there's something that we can get back to here. There's not. Turn the page, cut your losses. If you keep sinking more and more effort, energy, money, finances into this bad relationship, it's not going to come back in any positive way for you. You're just going to, by the time you eventually realize that you got to get out of it, realize that you could have saved some time, some effort, some money if you had just gotten out of it a little bit earlier. So that's where the 49ers are at with Brandon Ayuk, man. It's a bad relationship that the 49ers just need to cut ties with.
They need to give up those socks. You know, you might like them, but they done got dirty and they smelly and they rotten, and it's time to toss them.
Yeah. Some smelly socks. Yeah. Brandon Ayuk and bad relationships and smelly socks. That's where we'll end this show, man.
Yeah, they gotta go.
Man, and it's about time for us to go too. We're definitely over time here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show, but hey, we had to get these important Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk updates in. It's the last thing I want to talk about. Trust me, I am just as tired of talking about these two things as you guys are about hearing of them. It's not the most exciting thing to talk about in football terms, is the contract and the money and the drama, and I get that. But again, all of the things that the 49ers are going to be able to do in the offseason, it's entirely predicated at this point on how these two situations play out. So it's very important that at least one of these is resolved soon so that the 49ers can have some more flexibility to do some more things in free agency, hopefully before the draft, maybe sign another edge rusher or a safety that can be a veteran presence on the back end of this defense, maybe plug a hole on the offensive line. If you do one of those three things before you enter the draft, I really do think that that's a positive thing for the 49ers, puts them in a good situation. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's all the time that we got for you guys today here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. For myself, Eric Triple E Engel, and Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion. That's all the time we got for you guys today. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.